Welcome to the Movie Vault. This is Ben.
And I'm Zach.
And today we are going back to the start of what has made movies and cinema so successful even into the modern day, the summer blockbuster. Without this movie, how many times have we said this? Without this movie, no movies would exist.
In the specific realm.
Of summer blockbusters.
That's
what people say about this movie, at least.
Well, we are on a roll in the last few movies that we've reviewed. You know, Space Odyssey, the Man with No Name trilogy,
Seven Samurai.
Yeah, so I feel like those have all been groundbreaking, films. So why not continue that streak?
Right.
And then we'll really blow that streak in the next film.
Yeah, we're gonna review a film that probably has influenced some things, but not in ways that people would notice at all. Unlike Jaws, where they would definitely notice.
The Emoji Movie.
Yeah, so Jaws, it has a very simple plot. There's a police chief named Martin Brody. He and his family have moved to the town of Amity. That sounds right. Amity Island or something like that. Yeah, Amity Island. To I guess retire from the brutal life of being an NYPD officer. And then, unfortunately for him, it's actually more complicated because a shark attacks.
Hold on. I can't imagine being a police officer in New York. I feel like it's like trying to use a broom on mud. You know what I mean?
There's 8 million people in the proper city of New York, I believe, maybe more.
Wow.
And
I just can't.
And there's police for all of those, for the 5 boroughs and everything. Yeah, it would be pretty crazy.
It's just like, yeah.
And everyone's like packed in like a sardine.
Listen, I'm uneducated, but how much difference can they make?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm sorry. Continue your Jaws.
Yeah. So they essentially, but the town doesn't really want to believe that this shark exists because they want to believe it was an accident or something, and this girl died that way. But then, literally, there's this scene which is probably one of the more brutal scenes for this in any movie, because this young kid gets eaten by a shark like in front of everyone. That was a pretty crazy scene. Mm-hmm. But they still don't want to shut the town down. The mayor doesn't want to shut the town down because their whole town is relying on tourism. So they go back and forth, and eventually this marine biologist comes in. He's some scientist guy, and him and this local fisherman and Brody go out on a boating trip to catch the shark, and they use all of this technology, and eventually it's them versus the shark. Hooper, who is the marine biologist, goes into a shark-proof cage. That doesn't really work, and eventually it comes down to being Brody versus the shark, and Brody shoots a pressurized tank with a rifle after the shark had swallowed the tank, and blows up the shark. So that is how the movie essentially ends.
Oddly enough,
with Brody still surviving despite his accident, and then Quint, who's the fisherman, he got eaten up by the shark, which I thought was kind of interesting.
This is another tangent. So the Roy Scheider is the actor for the main character, and he actually starred in NYPD as Paul Jason in one episode in 1968.
Wow, everything comes full circle.
I needed to say that. So I wondered if that carried into this.
So there's a show called NYPD?
I guess so. Or I don't know. But yeah, it's a pretty straightforward plot. I think what does the worldwide world think of this film when the picture of Jaws? That movie poster, first of all, is legendary.
Yeah, it's
of
one
the
of
woman
the most
swimming above that shark as it comes straight up, and the shark isn't actually that to scale. That's like a little exaggerated. That's more like The Meg.
Yeah,
which is definitely a play off of this.
Yeah.
But Robert Shaw, so it stars Roy Scheider, Robert Shaw, and Richard Dreyfuss. I forget how to say that, but they are all not really famous actors in any of these roles, nor are they amazing actors in my opinion. But they're good in this context. So that when people see this movie poster, the point I was trying to make is that a ton of things come to mind. That's why branding is a perfect What's needed in this capitalistic society is all this specific branding. So Jaws, when you say that, people don't think of the human anatomical term, right? People think of the film. People think of Steven Spielberg. People think of da 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 whatever.
Yep.
So how did it get to that point? How do you think it did?
I think there just hadn't been anything like this before, and the way that they were able to utilize suspense really carried the movie. The fear that they being afraid of sharks is a very natural thing that people think about, because it's somewhat, whenever someone gets attacked by a shark, it gets on the news because it doesn't happen all that often. Sharks, I think, tend to be further away from the shore, so it's if they come, and then especially if they attack someone, it's a big deal. And so this is kind of like everyone's greatest fear in a movie, and then they really Spielberg really just milks the drama throughout the whole thing so that it leads to this dramatic finale. And I think that it was a big hit, so people remembered it. And even the stuff like you said, like the poster, just cementing itself in pop culture. I think all of those things coming together. I think this was Spielberg's breakout film too. So there's that. There's a lot of things coming together at one time, because he had done Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which is a somewhat popular known movie, but not as nearly as big as Jaws.
And I have to imagine that film became more popular after it came out.
Yeah, probably.
So, yeah, that is a good thought. And to go back to what you said, the poster, movies only had one poster back then, and it was what defined their film. I think of the movie Alien with the egg.
Yep.
Or Space Odyssey with that poster. That's awesome. And I think of all of those
Clockwork
films,
Orange.
Yeah, that you can just know exactly. You get so many things that come to your brain when you see that image. Now we have so many movie posters just for one movie, and it's the first thing I think of is Solo, it was one of the first films where each character gets their own poster, right? So you have these useless photos of people and they shows no context into the story, nor is it detailed, nor is it even put much thought into. So that kind of dilutes what is important in branding and making your film. Not that that's the most important thing of the film, but if you want to be iconic, then don't make movie posters for each of your characters. So that's just kind of a tangent. The best part about this film, I think, is probably the soundtrack and the visuals. I think there's some great visuals in here. For a PG movie back then, it was pretty bloody and great.
Yeah.
I think it was pretty bloody great.
Yeah, and for what they had, the technology, I think that's kind of what I'd heard people maybe there were people who were my age or when I was younger who would make fun of this movie because of the animatronic shark and stuff. But if you really watch the movie and observe, it's for the time, it's pretty good. There's a reason they didn't show the shark that much, and that's because, they were limited by technology. But now that we have the technology, all these sharks movies are not that good. So it's the limitation, it's so much. If anything, you learn anything from the movie vault and you're interested in making film, limiting yourself or being limited by something is not always a bad thing. We see that time and time again, and this is true of this movie.
Yeah. And this is based off of a book. So it's a book by Peter, Peter Benchley.
Peter Benchley.
Yeah.
And he also wrote the screenplay with Carl Gottlieb, something like that.
Yeah. And it was produced at Universal Pictures, independent of the novel. So, and it was also called Jaws. But
he wrote it in 1974, so it's pretty close together.
It was. Yeah, and they purchased the film rights, actually. He didn't write in 74, did they? They purchased the film rights in 73. Oh, yeah, before the book's publication. Wow.
So they were on this.
Okay, interesting. So they wanted it to be based off a book, so therefore they had to write a book, huh?
I don't know whether it's that or that Benchley was a known commodity, and they were he was talking about this, and they were well, let's buy that before the book even comes out. Who knows how those things work.
I'm not into the writing or the literature world that much, so yeah, I don't know. If Benchley is, let us know. Email us, themovievaultpod@gmail.com, right?
Yeah.
But Yeah, so it made a lot of money over the years, especially with, I mean, they show it every summer at all these theaters around.
Well, it's a 4th of July movie. That's the thing I realized too. It's like
It's kind of like Die Hard's a Christmas movie.
Yeah,
But this has 4th of July in it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, fairly enough, it works. Same thing with Die Hard. It has Christmas in it.
Right.
But this film is kind of like, I don't want to say like it's a cheap blockbuster. It is cheap, first of all, but it isn't cheap in the quality. I think its quality stands up there with the higher blockbusters. The sad part is, and we're always going to compare it to our time because we live now, and all of the blockbusters that have come out this summer have pretty much failed tremendously.
Yeah.
I think of Indiana Jones in the, what is it?
The Dial of Destiny.
I think of Fast 10, right? And I think of The Flash. All of these were supposed to be summer blockbuster movies that have failed and fallen flat and actually are box office failures. And even Elemental, I think of that as well. It's not really, I don't think of it as a blockbuster, but it came out in that summer blockbuster spot. So with a couple films coming up that are definitely going to be big hits, whether they are good or bad, how can we see the influence of Jaws into that? Because this really was the first big summer blockbuster.
I honestly think what Jaws influenced that what people would consider to actually be good was like into the 80s and 90s. And throughout the 2000s, as we've gotten further in, we saw first maybe the death of the summer blockbuster that was influenced by Jaws initially. But then we saw the rise of like a different genre, superhero genre, primarily taking over that summer blockbuster space. But now enough time has passed that even that is starting to falter. And really, I feel like we talk about this all the time, but I think the way that superhero movies were able to build huge universes made studios go, well, let's try to do that with other things like Indiana Jones or like whatever. And then the problem is, like, the great thing about Jaws was it was a unique idea that, you know, was low budget. Like, this would never happen nowadays. Like, there would never be this movie that's not cost $9 million to make that all of a sudden just like makes $500 million. Like, I the last time that happened was like Paranormal Activity, and that was like to such a smaller scale because it was like a $500,000 movie that made 81 million or something like that.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just maybe in our current time we can't see the influence as much, but if you look at movie history, you can definitely see where Jaws has influenced films.
I think you're right about it's hard to see now. It is because people have been failing like over and over and over. I'm going to name a few movies, actually a lot of movies, that are direct influences from Jaws, and you'll know exactly what I mean when I say the names. And pause me if you want to talk about any of them, okay? So there's Alien. That's Ridley Scott.
Yeah, that
said
one.
He based it
that
right
one's
off of Jaws.
Definitely based on Jaws.
There is The Fly. There's even Pan's Labyrinth, Anaconda, Monster Calls, Predator, Godzilla vs. Kong. That's more recent, but I think of King Kong and all of those as well. Jurassic Park is a big one. Cloverfield. Oddly enough, some people say Gremlins, or yeah, I don't know why. And then Alien, all the sequels for that as well, but that's more based off of the original. So those are some of the films that have been influenced by that. And what I mean by that is there is a central beast that they are fighting that is kind of haunting or trying to attack these people. And these people often aren't, the characters always get into these predicaments, whether by stupidity or by circumstance, or they have to save someone. And it's interesting to see that Jaws, before Jaws, there really wasn't, I can't think of, like, there probably is a film like this, but what was Jaws?
Well, I'm guessing that you mentioned, like, Godzilla and King Kong would have been the movies that Jaws was based off of, in a sense. But they were also older, tended to be, early on they were made by Japanese filmmakers, so they wouldn't have been as big in the U.S. But Jaws took it to, a different, like, I think Jaws was, in a weird way, more grounded in reality than Godzilla and King Kong, right? Because you go and you're like, you know that Godzilla and King Kong aren't real, but a great white shark is real. So Jaws, like, gets a grounding. I don't know whether it was directly influenced by either of them, like whether Spielberg would have said that he was influenced by King Kong, but those movies seem like we're at the central figure that's terrorizing a community and people who have to take it down.
Yeah.
You know what else influenced Jaws?
What?
From what I was reading, were actually some books. So, Moby Dick is the main one that people draw, and they say like Quint, who's the fisherman, he resembles Captain Ahab because he's like obsessed with killing the shark, and he's like, I can do it. He's like a little bit braggadocious too. And then I guess the screenwriter also drew comparison. So Carl Gottlieb, the other screenwriter, said he was influenced by The Old Man and the Sea, which is an Ernest Hemingway book. So, So Spielberg cited Godzilla King of Monsters, a movie that came out in 1956. So I was right about that.
Okay. Yeah, and I think just the idea of having a simple story like that really does work, because you said it hadn't been done before with sharks. You're right. And I mean, out of Jaws came Shark Week, The Meg, big popular shark culture. There really is a shark culture out there.
Yeah, it's weird.
And everyone participates in it, even if it's just for a little time every year. Watching a documentary about sharks, all these things about sharks, people are fascinated with them. People always look up what are shark attack statistics. You're more likely to be bitten by a shark than to get in a car. I'm just saying, like, that's what people say, and that's probably not true. I use car accident. I don't know.
You're definitely more likely to get in a car accident, 100%.
But people are fascinated, and I think Spielberg recognized this, because really, and this is going to get philosophical, in the deep, dark, unknown ocean, we are scared of those creatures that live down there, because it's the fear of the unknown that haunts us.
It's the ocean is probably one of the scariest. It just came to our attention because of the Titanic submarine incident.
Yeah,
which has been talked about so much in the media, but like that just brought back people's like we're like adventurers want to conquer the ocean. That's like because it's so big and vast and unknown, and it is, as we saw, like the actual ocean itself, not even the creatures in it, could crush you. Like it's a very powerful thing that we weren't designed to like go down to the deep trenches of the ocean
unless we die.
Yeah.
So another thing about this film that is also groundbreaking is it's one of the first big movies that was shot actually in the ocean. What do you think how do you think it added to the experience of the film?
I think the part where they're on the sea, definitely. I mean, like, because there probably been plenty of movies from the 50s and 60s that were like, we're on a ship, but everyone knows that it's like a studio or whatnot. It just, or even thinking back to like Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, like how goofy it looks when they're like in the boat, but it's like obviously not on a real boat. And so
you're thinking of a real sense, like it makes it more real.
Yeah, it makes it more real.
What does it add to it? I feel like my favorite personal part of this film was the ambiance nature of the environment.
Yeah,
you really feel immersed into what is happening in the film, and I think it's not even like I've seen films where you can get immersed in the deep underground or underwater aura. This like immersed you into the sea level area. Yeah, like not only are you on the port, but I'm talking about when you're on the ocean, you get to see like how scary and far the ocean can go, and it's freaky.
Every direction you look, it's just water. I mean, that would be terrifying.
Mm-hmm. And you're just on this little boat, and if a storm comes, and I think it really does add to that since it was shot in the ocean. It was shot in Martha's Vineyard, which is funny. I mean, Steven's like, if we're gonna live in luxury. Huh?
Yeah.
So, it's and Steven specifically wanted to suggest the shark's presence over than actually showing the shark's presence, because it is the fear of the unknown, and I'm gonna keep saying that because it is, and it's like almost ominous what he's going for. He's going for this ambiance, like that's this unknown area that you're in that hasn't had a film really shot there before, and there's this thing coming at you, and you don't even get to see him until like the end of the film,
right?
Kind of. So yeah, John Williams does a great job with the score. Just the impending doom, it gets faster and faster and faster. You think you're about to die, and it really does correlate with your heartbeat, because it's showing that it's getting closer. It really it's a music, like, yeah, we associate that with something getting closer, and John Williams achieved that through music somehow, and it's amazing. And it was just I read a bunch about their marketing, and apparently like they did a really good job marketing it. You just have to put sharks, pictures of sharks. That's it.
Yeah, and it just and also probably I imagine they kind of made the trailers and stuff. I didn't do enough research into this, but so that you were just like scared but also intrigued. So it was like you have to see this. Whereas like now we live in the age of like, okay, I just saw 2 minutes of a recap of the whole movie. Now I'm not sure I want to watch it, but whereas in Jaws, I would bet that they didn't do that.
But Ben, I don't think you and I realize. I still don't realize like how big this movie got right when it was released. It was a blockbuster. That's where the name came from, and it was the biggest movie. It was the highest-grossing film that year, of all time, until Star Wars. A couple years later.
Right, and it because it was like I said, $9 million budget. $456 million in the theaters in 1975. So I mean, adjust that to inflation, and it's like crazy.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's like the end game of their time. Truly, it is.
I mean, people probably went back and watched this 2-3 times.
Yeah, actually, Endgame only made 8 times. It's what it spent. It spent like $250 million.
Right.
It might have spent more than that to get like $2 billion, and this got much more of a profit.
Much more return on investment.
And this is also like, if you think about the production companies, this is why they tried to do films like Jaws, to achieve that ratio. It's a cheap film that they can make pretty easily. They didn't even need to use big actors. What people are getting wrong now is putting Jason Statham in shark movies. They can do it pretty easily doing just unknown good actors. And there are plenty of them out there. We don't need The Rock and everything.
Yeah.
So it really did kind of propose this Hollywood model that has been followed throughout the ages, and it's amazing, and I'm really glad that they did it, because blockbusters are some of my favorite films.
Yeah, there are really good ones, especially from this time period onward.
Not only that,
really
but
good ones.
It made the summer a magical time for movies.
Yeah,
because there wasn't really these highs and lows throughout the year. There wasn't like the structure of the year, You have the Oscar bait movies in the November time and like in the fall, and you have all these blockbusters in the summer. They call them summer blockbusters. And then in between you have, the independent films that are trying to like get their voice out in between the bigger films. So yeah. And then in the winter you have a lot of the Oscar bait as well.
But they also have like Christmas is a big time for movies. So there's be some big movies that come out in Christmas too.
Yeah, you're definitely right. And then Halloween, they have all these themes. Those were already there, I feel like.
Yeah.
But like this high of summer blockbuster really did come about from this. And I know we're not really talking about the movie itself. It's because it's a simple film. What this film brings to you is a sense of like happiness through I don't know, it's funny, it's through death. We're just watching these people die.
This is one of like it's actually a horrific movie.
Yeah.
Like if you really think about it, like you witness two especially the kid getting killed is just brutal. It's
oh man.
It's like I was like I almost couldn't believe they had it in the movie. I was like, because kids don't die in movies like that very often.
Yeah.
And or maybe it just the movies I watch.
No, truly, I thought the same thing.
Like that, and this is like because of like what we're saying about it being a summer blockbuster and everything. It's like definitely was a little bit shocking for that to be in there.
So we should start a writing letter campaign to kill more kids in movies.
Apparently, that's what the necessary thing to do.
Hollywood needs saved at the moment. Now I heard that Mission Impossible was really good. The new one.
Oh, the new one?
And that's a summer blockbuster as well.
Yeah, I mean, but Mission Impossible has been on an upward trajectory.
The movies have only gotten better. Yeah,
from what I've heard. I mean,
they have.
I think I've only watched the original one.
I mean, that one's a classic. But
yeah,
you're right. That's kind of a rare one where it gets better with each sequel.
Yeah, because because it knows what it is, and I think they just keep trying to like make it more intense and better every single time.
Yeah.
So, one of the other interesting things that I'm reading about Jaws is that when it came out, people tried to like find ideological meanings related to the Watergate scandal, which just happened, which I thought was really funny. So this guy named Stephen Heath said that Brody represents the white middle class, and there's not a single black person and not a single woman, so not a woman who's not married to a man or not in a relationship with a man in the film. And then he restores public order with an ordinary guy heroism of both fear and decency.
Okay.
I don't really understand how that relates to Watergate all that much. But.
Two things. One, there are only like one or two men that are not in relationship with women in this film. To be fair,
yeah,
but there are the women are really in the background in this. I'm gonna be honest.
And I'm guessing Amity, like at this time, there probably weren't a whole lot of minorities besides white people.
It's historically accurate. I know you can't make Cleopatra black. I'm sorry, like you got to be historically accurate. Can you like if you're doing a film about slavery, you cannot make the master black and the slave white. That's just
absolutely
wrong.
not. That would
I'm
be
just
wrong.
saying, like, what is the problem here? Just be accurate. What's wrong with that? Okay. Anyway, we're moving on. And I
just thought that was funny that because of the Watergate, like immediately it's like Watergate.
I wish that we would only theorize about our films being political. You know, we're at the point where they are, and it sucks. Adam McKay, I'm sorry, but I have loved your films in the past, but where are you going? What direction are you heading? Do you want to end your career? Your career's going to end soon.
Yeah.
Do you want the end of your career to be all about COVID-19 and masks and? Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Now we're gonna learn more about COVID-19 above our episode and stuff like that. You know. Anyway, let's move on. I'm gonna get really mad. But yeah, Jaws. What would you say is your favorite aspect of the film? I already said mine was the ambiance.
The ambiance. That's a good one. I think it's the suspense. I love the build up. And I think the ending, it just culminates it all. I think they did a really good job, and that's like the ambiance adds to that, and with the music.
Yeah.
But like the overall way that they were able to use suspense, it's a very patient movie.
Now I have a weird question. When you look at the poster, do you get plot? Do you get the characters? Do you get the ambiance, or do you get the build-up?
That's a good question. You get a little bit of the ambiance because of the girl is in the water. There's no sign of land anywhere. Mm-hmm. And there's just a shark underneath. So I can see the ambiance there. Exactly. You get nothing about the character.
And I think that's how you got to market good movies. Create a good feel and use that to your advantage. Because people will remember things by feeling them.
No, exactly. My favorite movies are usually my favorites because of the way they made me feel.
Exactly. Yeah. Donnie Darko feels like a freak show, and it's amazing. It's like a dark, weird, time-traveling, sadistic freak show.
It's all the stuff in between the lines of the movie. Like, not...
And it's the most ambiguous thing in the world.
And people could make it about the like Christopher Nolan-y like time travel thing that's in the movie, but it's not really about that. It's about like the ambiance and the feeling. And this movie's the same way. Yeah. It's about the ambiance.
Yeah, and I agree with you about that. And I think the Meg. I said that the second one's coming out, right? I saw the trailer for it. It's like there's a shark like fighting a dinosaur and. It's just crazy.
Or there's like, what are those ones like 17 meters under or whatever?
Yeah, the one with the girl in the cage.
Yeah,
that's I actually really enjoyed that film. That brought suspense too. It did show the shark the entire film. So I think what they're failing at these days is, one, the beast is like what they're selling, and I think that's okay. But Steven Spielberg sold the experience of this beast. The Jaws. I don't mean people say that Jaws is the shark. It's not. There's just
the shark.
A shark
doesn't have a name.
Yeah, it's just they just called it Jaws because that's the book. But he's selling your fear. In the Meg, they aren't selling your fear. They're selling sharks and dinosaurs fighting each other. And in films like this, I think of Alien, they're selling your fear again, but in a different way, in an extraterrestrial way. And that's so different because nobody makes me scared anymore because they're like, oh, it's already been done. They've already used fear, Some people say that, some don't. And they're kind of just ruining it for me. I haven't found another film like this these days that I've enjoyed. And I mean these days as 1990 and beyond.
1990 and beyond?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you think of any?
I can't really think of anything.
Okay.
That's like this, like the single creature
now,
plot.
I will say an off-brand of it, A Quiet Place. That's similar. It's kind of using your fear, but it's like a different type of story.
Yeah.
Because you don't really see the creatures.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So there are lots of films where you don't see the creatures, but I'm saying non-horror movies where there's a beast, central antagonist.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting to think about. This movie is like a suspense movie, but not a horror movie. Mm-hmm. And it's like the tone of the movie is kind of what makes it like that. Mm-hmm. It's that because they make it a lot about the tension between the mayor and like some people aren't don't seem like they're really afraid,
Mm-hmm.
and then some people do. The fact that it's grounded a lot of times, you know, in a horror movie, it's like this. It's at night, and it's this thing that nobody ever knew was possible, and it's like, it's just, you know, it's a horror movie.
Yeah.
Or it's like Michael Myers walking and he's invincible, and the police wouldn't even know about Michael Myers because he slips under the radar.
Yeah. And
So-
that's really awesome, by the way.
Yeah, it is awesome, but it's different than what this is.
Yeah. And I think this reminds me of what we just did, a 2001: A Space Odyssey, where it's not meant to be a horror movie, but it really does become one of the greatest horror movies when you're just talking about the expanses of space and just saying, like, what is it actually? Obviously, the weird parts with all the visuals and psychedelic things aren't, well, we don't theorize them to be true. They could be. You never really know. But space scares us. The ocean scares us, and that's what these movies are doing. They're not directly trying to scare us. They're just showing us what is real.
Yeah.
You
They're
know?
just like, this is the
That's why I watch Investigation Discovery so much. It's because deep down I'm afraid, but I watch it to try to be brave and tell my friends, like, yeah, I watch this all the time. It's nothing to me, you know?
Yeah,
I'm like
yeah.
a psychopath. But it really does there's something at our core that makes us afraid. No matter how many times we get it, we really can't be numb to it. We just come up with mechanisms to think about other things instead.
Right.
But-
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is so odd to me. It came out 7 years before this, and how visually stunning that film is. But this is great, too. By the way, I loved when these random limbs would just float to the bottom of the ocean. I love that.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm glad that they're showing that. I wish they showed a little bit more. But it was very violent, very bloody, and the characters were great. We should probably get into some of the characters.
The three main ones are Brody, which Brody's, like, we've kind of talked about him already, but he's the classic. He's the outsider, so because he just moved there, so people know that, like, I think they respect that he's a police officer and stuff, but they kind of like act like he doesn't know anything because he's not used to the town, which might be a fair criticism, but sometimes being an outsider is an advantage.
Should we go into Zach's moral corner?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because
Zach's moral corner. There's a new segment we're doing.
I'm just thinking, like, Officer Brody really did know that there was a shark in there and said nothing. To keep his job.
Ethically, he failed.
But he's the hero, you know?
And you could tell there's a big internal struggle. And
Do you think he believed what the mayor was saying?
no, he didn't.
Okay.
That's the thing. I think that's why ethically he did make the wrong
But
decision.
he was a little bit calmed down after that conversation. The mayor's like, oh, no, it's fine. We'll be all right. We don't need to do it.
Yeah. And wasn't there a point where...
We will not shut down
Wasn't
the
there a
4th of
point
July.
where they had caught a tiger shark, and then they opened the beaches back up?
Yeah.
And so that was also like, because at that point, Hooper, who is, again, I don't exactly know, he's in some research institute. He was maybe alluding to that he didn't think the shark was big enough.
Doesn't he work for, like, the government or something?
Yeah, he works for the government, something or another.
I love it that he's just like, this reminds me, have you ever seen Arrested Development?
Yeah.
That's right. You know, the youngest son, gosh, what's his name?
The Michael Cyrus?
No, what am I saying? Oh my gosh, Buster.
Buster, yeah.
It reminds me of Buster because he's so rich, and they just send him off to, like, study random things and just to get him out for the summers. It reminds me of that because they're so rich they don't care about.
Yeah, because that's his story, right? He's like, he was really rich,
Yeah.
and then he just did this. He's like obsessed with sharks.
Yeah, I just pictured his parents, like, sending him away because he's so annoying.
He loves sharks. We'll just send him to study them.
Yeah, I think, like, Buster studied, like, archaeology, like,
Yeah.
from some niche period. But yeah, and he was actually a really good character. He was kind of the voice of reason the entire film. He was really the only voice of reason the entire film. The wife was just crazy. Like, she's, like, letting her kids play on the dock in the little boat when after it happened. I know we're not supposed to measure this by any set of morals, but whatever. That's where I go. Okay, let's leave my corner.
Yeah, so then there's Quint. He's the Captain Ahab character, and he understands the gravity of the situation, but he kind of makes it about himself. So ultimately, I thought it was interesting that he's the one who dies at the end. I was like, is there some sort of significance to the fact that Quint dies and then Hooper and Brody make it out? Obviously, Brody's supposed to be the hero. Hooper is like so likable, it's like he'd be hard to kill. So Quint, maybe it's just a practical thing. Like somebody has to die of these three. They can't all make it back.
Yeah. In
And
the town
Quint's
meeting
one.
when he said, "I'll kill it," I was like, yeah, he's going to die.
Because he's too braggadocious and like above the.
Hold on,
even
let
though
me
he
just pause you. You've
understands-
used the word braggadocious twice in this podcast so far.
Should come up
No,
with a
keep
synonym
going.
of
Let's see
that.
how many times you can use it, but it has to be natural, okay?
Yeah,
No, you're right though. It's he's kind of like a consultant.
yeah. It's
for
like he
shark
knows
hunting.
how hard killing the shark is, but he's so prideful, or I don't know.
So are you trying to say that it's his morals that killed him?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No. Yeah. Like
Is it kind of like the teenagers who
No,
go out and
I mean,
have
this is-
fun and play a little
yeah,
bit,
this
get
is-
killed in the horror movie?
This is sort of like a horror movie thing that I'm
Okay.
like the writer like intentionally or unintentionally was like, this is the consequence of acting this way, even though in real life, like, you know, it doesn't maybe really have any consequence what he says there. He
Okay.
could have just died and have been unrelated to anything that he had said, but because this is a movie, you know,
Okay.
you think about it a
But
little
the mayor.
differently. The mayor still lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he also doesn't go out on the
But
boat.
hold on, you're saying like a mayor who is a mass murderer and Brody, who is also an accomplice in mass murder, are the good guys and the morals of Quint.
This is the
who
moral
is
structure of
who
this.
is prideful.
This is the moral structure of
All
this
because-
movie, not
Oh,
the
because he had some pride.
because he bragged too much at the council meeting.
Okay.
It's an unforgivable sin.
Okay. By the way, that woman did not cry enough for her son.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Just like in 2001: A Space Odyssey,
Nobody
Dave
cried
did
enough
not
for
cry
that.
for his friend. I'm just saying, like, people.
That should have set everyone to like. They should have had to bring a psychologist in.
I'm pretty
'Cause
sure-
literally there were like 50 to 100 people who witnessed the death of a 10-year-old child. Like if that happened to me, I wouldn't just be able to go back to the beach. The beach would be a traumatic place to go.
I don't know. I think you're mistaking because we're Americans and it was the 4th of July and we put off all emotions until we see our fireworks. Okay.
That's a good point. That's a good point. We just had the 4th of July, and that's very true.
Yeah. And did you watch this on the 4th of July weekend?
Yeah, it was around that time.
Okay. I tried to.
I watched it around the 4th of July weekend, and I was like, oh, but then you left, so we can
Yeah.
get it out before.
I went to Boston, or the start of our nation's independence, quote unquote, and well, I
The
should
Tea
probably
Party.
hold on. Do you say quote and then the start of our nation's independence unquote, or do you say quote unquote after?
I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
If
But-
you say quote unquote, it kind of covers everything, I think.
Okay, I'll cover it. But I was there for the 250th anniversary. This is the year 250 years since the Tea Party, Boston Tea Party, and I was in Boston, and we went to go watch the fireworks, but they didn't shoot them high enough, so we couldn't see them behind any of the buildings. And there were thousands of people with us in all this field, and they were trying right when the fireworks went off. And by the way, the Canada didn't help because their fires were all over it too. So it's just kind of like
hazy, and
yeah, we're just kind of like okay, and everybody left, everyone. So.
you guys stay to hear the fireworks.
No, I'm just like this is the 250th anniversary in the capital of our independence.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering like why.
Why they didn't put more effort into that?
It's
Yeah.
probably Ron DeSantis.
Probably. You can blame it on him.
But yeah. Anyway, I think to go off of your favorite part and my favorite part, what this film does correctly were those things, plus it had a direction that it took and a specific niche that it went. It didn't have to solve the world's problems. It didn't have to make a political statement. Films back then didn't have to.
They were supposed to be entertaining.
They
How
were
about
great.
that?
That's all we'll go about that. But the 4th of July, what kind of 4th of July movies would take a competing slot against this? I think of Top Gun.
Top Gun?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. The only other 4th of July movie I could think of was Born on the 4th of July, which I watched like a month ago. And that's like it would be a terrible summer
Our friend Ian
blockbuster.
is born on the 4th of July, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the movie is like such a sad movie about Tom Cruise going to Vietnam and like losing both his legs. It's like so sad.
Interesting.
It's not.
Are we going to put like war movies in the 4th of July category?
No, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't. That's the movie
Could we
I
put Saving
thought of,
Private Ryan?
but that doesn't fit into the 4th of July movie category. I don't feel like.
What about no, that doesn't work.
Those are more like Memorial Day movies.
Okay, correct.
That's
or Veterans Day.
Veterans Day, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. Or even
4th of July is about the nation's independence, not necessarily strictly about military.
Now, when I think of modern day 4th of July cinema, I actually don't think of cinema. I think of Stranger Things.
What about Independence Day?
Okay, fair enough.
Forgot about that one.
That's a little off, though. It kind of takes you in a different direction than actual independence.
Yeah. This would be... Yeah.
But it's not alluding to our independence, right?
No, it's not. See, it's not.
I'm just saying, like, that's not. It's Independence Day, but it's not. It's just
like
the title.
Yeah. I forget.
I honestly forget. Does it happen on the 4th of July?
That I might not.
Okay.
There's some sort of quote in the movie. It's been a while since I've seen it, where I think somebody goes, the president or something goes, "This is our Independence Day" or something like that, and that's where they get the name. So yeah, it probably doesn't have as much to do with the 4th of July.
But it's like the world.
Yes, the world's independence.
That's what I mean.
And I think it maybe does happen on the 4th of July. So then it's like the whole world can celebrate 4th of July now.
Okay.
Which I'm like, is kind of, when you're thinking about like how did they come up with an idea for this movie? You're like, what? Like they were like, let's make the whole world celebrate 4th of July.
You're right. That is kind of wacky, but it is an awesome movie.
Yeah, it is.
But
it's fun.
Who do you think wins, Top Gun or Jaws, in the 4th of July battle?
Is this like personal or like? I think Jaws wins over the original Top Gun.
Really?
Yeah.
In our modern day society.
In the modern day, I think Top Gun wins now.
I think it does because of Tom Cruise.
But it's hard to say because it just like the new one just came out last year and it had such a big.
You're right. That is kind of a confounding
So it's
variable.
like it'll be interesting to see over the next 15 years. There's nothing that will bring.
What about before in 2021?
I think Jaws. I think people didn't think about Top Gun as much.
I actually think Top Gun.
Really?
I think Top Gun has left. I don't think Top Gun has influenced Hollywood as much. Jaws definitely did. It set the model. But Top Gun, people bought aviators and like I don't know, people like drive Jeeps because of Top Gun, you know?
Yeah, but like the thing with Top Gun is like I feel like before the new movie came out, it's kind of just like, oh yeah, there was this movie in the 80s called Top Gun. Like I know that, and it's not like didn't seem like that big of a deal.
Listen, I know we had my dad on Top Gun, and I was raised by a Top Gun fan, but I'm saying people will be like, "You can be my wingman." People will quote that film all the time. Right. And
people don't
the only quotable line from Jaws that has been used in other films is, "We're gonna need a bigger boat."
Yeah, I mean, Jaws is definitely not the most quotable movie, if that's part of your criteria.
And Danger Zone, I'm just saying, like, the soundtrack.
Yeah, I knew that. And
I know they're completely different movies in different areas of cinema, but I think Top Gun would win in a vote. If we had to vote.
Oh, yeah, it would win in a vote.
Instead of voting for the next president in our election, we voted for Jaws and Top Gun, I think people, first of all, I think 100%, we would have 100% voter participation. And I think we would have Top Gun win.
Top Gun win. I think
it would be close. I think it would be like 58-42.
That's not really close, but I see what you mean.
That's pretty close. I think it is. I know 8% is like millions of people, but still, in my mind, that's pretty close.
That would be referred to as a landslide if it was a presidential vote.
Fair enough. Yeah, if it's president. But yeah, I think those are the top two that would be in the 4th of July, because there really aren't like 4th of July giant films that are 4th of July.
No,
there are lots of 4th of July films, but nothing that comes to mind. Stranger Things did a great season. People put season 3 at the bottom of their list. Okay, fine. I really liked season 3. And that's surrounded around the 4th of July with an evil mayor as well. So I love that, and it's kind of like a Jaws angle.
Yeah.
Because there's the monster. I forget what
I'm going to have to rewatch through that whole show before season 5 comes out, because like there's so much I forget.
There are a lot of storylines. There are a lot of storylines. So.
Yeah.
And they're adding new characters. They announced new characters in season 5. Gosh.
It's really going to be the end this time, though, right?
Yeah, it is.
I love Stranger Things, but also like
they need to end it because it's doing well. I think it's. Yeah. I know we had our problems with season 4. There were some sappy, stupid scenes.
Yeah.
And it stretched out a lot at the beginning, and they added too many characters, too many storylines.
There's too much filler now in Stranger Things. Like I don't think it's cohesive enough anymore.
I don't think it's cohesive enough as it was in season 1. I don't think it's as much filler as you're saying. Maybe it's just because again, it's like since I watched it so spaced out, I think
it's
I
hard to
watched it all together.
Watching it. That's what I'm saying. Watching it all together would make your appreciation of the smaller details a lot higher and would make them feel like less fillery.
Okay,
but,
yeah. I mean, we could get nerdy about it.
You can be braggadocious about your lore of Stranger Things knowledge. But.
Yeah. But that also reminds me of that, too, because like I think of Vecna or the Demogorgons. Those are also just kind of monsters that you don't really see until later seasons. They kind of hide in the shadows.
Yeah.
So, but... Oh man, I'm out of breath. But yeah, Jaws really knocked it out of the park, and we're really grateful to Steven Spielberg, my hero, really my hero. I've listened to so many podcasts where you're on and interviews of you. Really, if you're listening to this, which I know you never will, but if you somehow accidentally listen, I'm gonna be in the healthcare field. When you're on your deathbed, I'm gonna have someone put on my podcast for you because I'm gonna be in charge of that hospital, and they're gonna listen. And
Zach's moving to where I actually don't know where Steven Spielberg lives.
Hollywood Hospital.
The best hospital close to where Steven Spielberg lives.
I'm going to be his personal doctor at home. And I'm going to just make him listen to hours of us, Ben. And he's going to be like, oh, yeah, I should have did that. I'll be like, oh.
We really haven't offered him any suggestions as to what he should have done differently.
I'm just joking. No, we can't assume that we're smarter than him in any way.
But it is crazy. Steven Spielberg... There's a very real world where somebody could have made this movie and it had been like a one-off hit, but he not only did he make the first summer blockbuster, he like made so many summer blockbusters that were so successful and so good.
His Wikipedia page takes forever to scroll through.
Yeah, and like I know like it's kind of changed over the years, and like nowadays he's doing different things, and like not all of them have worked out. But if you look at Steven Spielberg, like what he did, and maybe it's like I don't like my very favorite movies tend not to be like don't tend to be like the magical whimsical movies that like Steven Spielberg makes, but he still is so solid. Like Indiana Jones.
And what does he do? He immerses you into it.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones. Yeah. Sorry.
The first one. It was
Raiders.
I think it was just called Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yep.
It's so good. One of the best action movies ever. Mm-hmm. And I feel like he's made so many good movies that sometimes I forget that he made those, or like Jurassic Park. Like some people are bigger on Jurassic Park than I am, but it is an incredible movie, and it does definitely he like used what he learned from Jaws and like used it in order to make Jurassic Park. But
what would be your favorite film by Steven Spielberg? There's Jaws, Close Encounters, Raiders, E.T. Indiana.
I think
Temple of Doom.
Classically. I would say Raiders of the Lost Ark. That would be my favorite.
Even above Hook?
Above Hook. Now I think the first one that I think is like super underrated is Minority Report. I love that movie with Tom Cruise. It's definitely not better than like some of his best, but it's still like
Saving Private Ryan?
I have not seen it. I haven't seen Schindler's List or Saving Private Ryan, which are two big holes in my
those are big
watching
ones.
of.
My favorite is either Schindler's List, but it's probably Catch Me If You Can.
Catch Me If You Can
is
really
like
good.
Tom Hanks and Liam.
That one's really good. Yeah.
So, and I know that's not like the most critically acclaimed. It's probably not his best movie. He probably has better film.
I forgot like E.T. Like E.T. was huge, and I have not seen that movie, but it's like you kind of forget like he's made so many big movies.
It's so funny. He like had already come out with Indiana Jones, E.T., and Jaws and Close Encounters, and then he goes to TriStar Pictures. This is the only one he does with them to do Hook. I'm just wondering like what happened there.
Yeah, he has some like interesting like
he did Tintin.
He did the BFG and like Tintin. It's like
I didn't even know he did Ready Player One until after.
Like Ready Player One. They're so lately
War Horse.
If you I'm like what with Disney he did War Horse. I'm like what? The Fableman's got really good reviews.
Yeah. I will say no. I think actually I just found it. I forgot that he directed Lincoln, and that's probably my favorite.
Yeah, I Daniel heard that one's really good. See, you forget how many good movies he's done.
And to be honest, it's because his movies are really all over the place.
They're so
Their themes are different. There isn't a direct style. There is a big style that he has, but his style doesn't carry over into all of his films.
I think that's maybe why you don't think of Spielberg as much when you're like, I love this director, because other directors really like hone into one, like I do this, and like
for sure,
like I think as a movie viewers, a lot of times we like I like to see how Tarantino does his thing, but like in different variations.
Do you think
But I always know it's Tarantino, so I know what I'm getting into.
His range is good, which I think makes him more talented than other
Probably
directors.
because he can go do whatever and be good at it.
The bad thing is he also has a few more flops than other directors.
That's true.
Because that's the risk that comes with it.
I would compare him more to Scorsese because they both had really long careers.
Okay.
They just made different choices as far as what they wanted to do with movies. Scorsese was more willing to have characters that were morally like gross, I guess. I don't know how, like, they're just grimier movies.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he's ever, like, I don't
For
think
sure.
Spielberg's ever done a mob movie. Now, Spielberg did go into the, like, did, like, Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan and did, like, some R-rated movies. Like, he hadn't really done that before. And those are very, like, serious movies. I think he wanted to show, like, I can do, like, movies that are serious.
Mm-hmm.
But
You're right. Spielberg's a little bit more PC.
But he stays, and that's why he has so many blockbusters, because the broad-ranging appeal of his movies.
He's a safe director for big production companies that want to put a movie out there. I'm wondering, is he working on a film after The Fabelmans?
I have no idea.
Okay. I have not seen The Fabelmans. That's one of the only ones I haven't seen of his. And The Bridge of Spies. But I think what I'll do is I'll probably watch The Fabelmans. If he's making another film, I'm always excited for a Steven Spielberg film. But here's what I was going to say before. I think, whereas you have Wes Anderson and Scorsese, Wes Anderson's very stuck in his in his own
absolutely
thing. Scorsese is less. I'd say other directors like Quentin Tarantino, he can do his own. He can kind of have a large variation
of his own thing, though. Like, you always know it's him, but he does change.
Wes Anderson cannot.
No,
he's very structured. He's got very specific things that he needs in his film, And Scorsese, I'd say, is sort of like Quentin Tarantino, where although he can have wide range, Scorsese chooses not to. I think he chooses to go for that mob vibe in most of his films.
And well, if you just look at the structure of a lot of his movies, they do tend to be like, here there's a hero that falls, or like there's like, even if it's not about the mob, it's like you can see the structure of the story.
You can tell that there are acts in each of his films that correlate to the rest of his films. And Spielberg is very much not like this. And I think, look, I know Scorsese is more critically acclaimed films, but Spielberg does have a wider range. He really does. I don't think Scorsese can make Jaws.
No, Scorsese could not have made Jaws. He could not have made...
What would a Scorsese Jaws film look like?
Well, I don't think Scorsese could have made many of the films that Spielberg did. It'd be interesting whether Spielberg... I'm not sure Spielberg could have made Goodfellas, but like I feel like you could find or he definitely couldn't have made Taxi Driver, but I feel like you could find a Scorsese movie that Spielberg could have made. That'd be an interesting thought experiment.
War Horse.
Yeah,
would be the reverse. Yeah. So with that, I think Schindler's List could have been a good Scorsese film. It would be very different, but I think he could take that plot.
Oh yeah, he could.
So. Or even a live-action Tintin. It would be like a very dark, and Tintin would be like, kind of like he would be played by Barry Koenig, and he would be like on the streets, like with the captain, and they would be like killing people constantly. It would be that would be awesome. A Scorsese film of Tintin with Barry Koenig as because you know what he is. He's like a tough guy. He's like smaller, and he's like, I mean, when he kills people on screen, it's intimidating.
Yeah. True.
Minority Report, probably not a Scorsese film. Catch Me If You Can, probably not. But anyway, I think there are many different ways that Spielberg has influenced the rest of. I mean, this is just a general statement that people know already. I feel like I don't even need to say it.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna say he has had so many different influences in so many different sectors and facets of the film industry. I'm thinking of like beast movies. Space movies, and like what am I trying to say? Sci-fi films, and like dark movies, historical dramas, and movies about characters competing against each other and like racing, and just so many different things, and adventures, and almost documentary style things, war, and fantasy. And I'm just like, if I were this guy, I would really quit while I'm ahead, but he's still making films as an old man, and it's amazing, and I love it. And I hope that these directors keep making films, and that we can freeze their bodies, and when we figure out how to make them come back alive, we can have them make films again and have a big comeback. One summer we should have in the future where we freeze Scorsese and Spielberg and Anderson's heads. We should have one summer where they come back in 2000, what year? 2100, right? That would be good. And you have your little boy Jimmy. He'll be like 18 years old, he'll be 28 years old, and we'll all go to the film together, and he'll be on the podcast too, and we'll all review all 3 movies that come out because of them. Or we could have AI write for them. We just need to save their brains into AI and then keep creating content for us in that structure.
Yeah.
The only thing that AI gets wrong in that sense is that these people make mistakes, and some of those mistakes make their films amazing.
Yeah. That's what AI. It would be. That's what. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't really say anything with what I just said, but but it is amazing to think about the fact that some people's mistakes are like genius.
Yeah.
I don't know what you have to have for that to happen. Maybe it's just chance a little bit,
Yeah.
but
Like, my parents did not plan on my littlest brother, but they're really glad that they had him.
yeah.
Some of us weren't. But anyway, do you have anything else to say, Ben?
Not really. I mean, what is there left to be said about Jaws? If you haven't seen Jaws, you have to watch it. I hadn't seen Jaws for the first 21 years of my life somehow, and that was probably the biggest mistake my parents made. So
They should have showed you straight from when you sprouted up.
Yeah, they should have been like, you have to watch Jaws.
You'd be like a 3-year-old, be like, that kid just died. And then you'd react the same way that his mother died.
I'd be
in the film.
scared to death of sharks my whole life.
You'd be like, that's how I'm supposed to react to death? Just move on?
Yeah.
Like that? Okay. Yeah, you learn a lot from films. Kids take in films more than you think, so be careful. I remember
true.
When I was little, I watched a ton of Star Wars, and I remember I was scarred by that scene where Anakin was on fire in the lava. And I remember that scene so vividly because I was little, and I was like, this is disgusting. And so that's my dad's fault.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I didn't see Star Wars till later, so maybe it's not as traumatic for me.
Yeah. I mean, that's his fault for showing me the prequels, although that's the best of the prequels.
Right. That's true.
But put our socials.
Yep. So the Movie Vault Pod on Instagram, Movie Vault Pod on Twitter. Email us at themovievaultpod@gmail.com. You know the drill. Sign up for Hedman Anglin Agency Insurance.
Mm-hmm.
I saw somewhere, I think Jonathan Anglin from Hedman Anglin Insurance Agency had said that like the market for insurance is changing, so getting a requote on your insurance might be important at this time of days, or it's just because of like backup from
this time
inflation,
of day.
This time of day.
So
this
time, whenever
this time
you're
of the month,
whenever you're listening, because this isn't live at all.
Yeah, this is not live, but in the current day. So look back to the release date of this episode. It's just a fluctuating market. So call them at 614-486-7300. That's 614-486-7300. And make sure that you tell them that Ben and Zach sent you.
Yeah. And,
So-
well, do you want to say what is our slate?
Our slate, so we got this. Next movie will be Mystery Train. Then we're doing...
We'll probably do Barbenheimer before Mystery Train, don't you think? You gonna do both before?
Yeah, we will probably release Barbenheimer.
Yeah, because it'll be next week.
Mystery Train, yes.
Barbenheimer, we're going to do collab with Backstage Cinema again.
Yep.
Right? So Ike and Jaden
So
will
that's going
join
to be
us.
really exciting.
And we're doing one of them, and then they're doing the other one.
Yeah,
I don't know what
I think that's the current plan.
Okay.
And then finally, we will be doing Inland Empire because I got it on Criterion.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
I honestly don't know anything about it, and I think we should just go in blind.
Yeah, but we've done a few David Lynches at this point, and I mean after Eraserhead, oh my gosh.
I read the synopsis and it didn't help at all with what the movie's going to be like. So
that's just like after Eraserhead, I'm ready for anything David Finch has to throw at me. Okay, I feel ready. I feel like I've been through World War II and I'm ready to go into the third.
Right. So that's our slate for now. So we'll have a mix of really popular movies and then more like indie movies.
Yeah, and this is really the end
niche.
of films that are from a long time ago. And I say a long time ago, like some of you are. I'm just saying, like then we're gonna go to. I mean, Mystery Train's 1989, and then Barb and Oppenheimer are new.
Yeah, and Inland Empire is like 2006. So
I'm just saying, like, so we're gonna put a pause on our old movie ventures for now, which is all right. We did a trilogy and 2 pretty good ones. So
yeah, and then 2001: Space Odyssey. Yep, and then this one. Seven Samurai, like we've gone through it. We've done older movies. We're making up for lost time.
Yeah, and then one day and then I think after that I was gonna ask you to do another trilogy again, but that'll probably be at the end of the year. But let's not overdo it, Ben. Okay.
Well, we're not gonna. I mean, we never overdo it.
Yeah, we really don't. we really have the most structure. I mean, it's really like, I mean, we've said this. We'll say it now, but. Other podcasts, like they'll talk about news and stuff like that. We really just talk about a specific movie, and I like that. I like that we stick to just a movie. Sometimes we'll have Outside the Vaults, but we don't promise that.
No, the outside the vaults are like a cherry on top if we have time.
Yeah.
And we have a cool idea.
But in life, you really don't always have time for that cherry.
No,
It's for
you
special
don't.
occasions.
No.
Or times
Sometimes
when
you
you
have
have
to
time.
tell them, hold the cherry.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're allergic, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But some people only listen to our outside the vaults.
Which is sad because we haven't released very many of them since when we were in our initial phase, we did do a lot of outside the vaults, but it was just not sustainable in the long term, which is unfortunate.
Wasn't
but
renewable
true.
energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, okay. Well, after that, I'm gonna close the vault. Da-dun, 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 da-dun.